Were you at the show when? No, you weren't. When you're done,
Oh.
maybe I may have told you this. I may not have told you this. Kale is friends with Fat Mike's nanny.
Oh, okay.
Did I not tell you this?
No, I don't think you told me this.
Welcome to Noise Floor, a podcast about music and our favorite artists' discographies. I'm Troy Sennett.
And I'm Matt Kistler.
And today we are starting a brand new series on the emo indie rock titans Death Cab For Cutie. We are starting with their debut / sort of demo album, You Can Play These Songs with Chords, released in 1997, in date indeterminate. I think they just kind of started handing it to their friends sometime later in 1997. Then more notably reissued a few years later in 2002 by Barsook Records, who Death Cab would have a much stronger relationship with by that point. This album, like most of Death Cab's discography, up till later in their career, was produced by Chris Walla, recorded generally as a Ben Gibbard solo project or sort of side project from his band Pinwheel. Before we get into all of the history and the backstory, Matt, what's your relationship with Death Cab generally?
So my relationship with Death Cab is that they were a band that I knew a lot of my high school friends liked, and something about my early attempts to listen to them just didn't quite grab me. And then at a battle of the bands at my high school, I think maybe the last one I attended in my senior year, my friend's band Before Summer Ends covered The Sound of Settling, and I was like, oh, this is what that band sounds like? I should probably check them out a little harder. And from there, I listened to Transatlanticism. I went back and listened to Something About Airplanes, and have spottily visited the early discography. Beyond that, I had never heard this record in particular prior to this last week, which is wild because one of the songs that didn't end up on Something About Airplanes sounds very, very familiar to me, and I cannot tell you why.
Which song is it?
It is Hindsight. I don't know if it was featured somewhere or if I've just heard it on the internet before, but it sounds very familiar, even though I have no reason to have listened to it before now.
Huh. Yeah, I don't know if it may, who knows, could have popped up in a TV show or something at some point.
Oh, yeah, almost assuredly. A lot of Death Cab songs have.
Yeah, I mean, they really are, one of those, quintessential hear them in a movie or in a TV show in the early 2000s sort of bands. They seem to have no qualms. Well, maybe they had some qualms at some point in their career, but they are really the soundtrack to that kind of pre 500 Days of Summer, pre Garden State sort of indie kid entertainment. So Death Cab forms in Bellingham, Washington in 1997, or sort of late 96, early 97. Ben Gibbard is playing in a band called Pinwheel at the time. Did you listen to Pinwheel?
I gave them a quick listen, but I didn't get to dive into anything very much.
I listened to a song and it rocked.
Hell yeah! I
downloaded the whole
I
EP.
do want to listen to more.
Yeah, I mean, it just sounds like Sunny Day Real Estate but punk, which is a thing that I enjoy a lot.
I definitely see some of that reflected in what ended up becoming Death Cab For Cutie too, as we'll talk about in a little bit here.
Yeah, and that kind of actually that raises a question. How do you think of Death Cab For Cutie as an emo band in the 90s emo sense, or in more of a popular emo mid 2000s sense?
That's a great question because it seems like they are interested in doing a little bit of both, especially across their early material. And I think they kind of pull both ends of that off in a lot of ways, which is wild. I don't know. What do you think?
So there's no way they hadn't heard Sunny Day Real Estate, and
no.
But there are multiple points on this album that I am they must have heard Static Prevails because it came out right before they formed. And there's moments on this record that I'm they're just doing early Jimmy Eat World and kind of better than Jimmy Eat World does it sometimes. So
sure, yeah.
This album felt a little more to me like some of that 90s emo stuff that I love than any later Death Cab I've heard, which I love for different reasons.
Yeah, no, they become a very different beast at a certain point in their career. But yeah, this early stuff is so deeply informed by that like kind of early second wave emo. Second wave, probably second wave, I think. I'm not really sure.
I don't know the waves very well, but yes,
Yeah.
we'll say second wave. But then he's
Yeah.
also playing in. He's got a solo project called All Time Quarterback that later gets reissued on Barsuk as well. And then there's a band called Eureka Farm that bassist Nick Harmer and later Death Cab drummer Jason McGurr are playing in. And then Chris Walla is kind of in the scene as well, starting to record bands around this time. They all at some point live in this one house together that ends up is kind of the initial Hall of Justice recording studio. Is what it was. I think that's kind of what Chris Walla's studio is called wherever he was living at the time at any given time. So all those things kind of come together to have Ben Gibbard starts Death Cab for Cutie as a side project to Pinwheel. The band name comes from a song that's in Magical Mystery Tour by this band called the Bonzo Dog Doodah Band. Do you know this song at all?
I do not know this song at all. I was shocked to learn this piece of lore while reading up on this earlier today.
Yeah, it makes it like it's such an odd band name and is one of those band names like, where the hell did they come up with this? But it's for it to be a thing that they got from Magical Mystery Tour kind of surprised me because that seems like it should be a more well-known piece of pop culture ephemera.
Right, yeah. And it feels very out of place for that movie specifically from what little I know about it, but sure, whatever.
I don't know that there's anything that could be in place in Magical Mystery Tour. That's an odd movie.
Fair point. But of course, like many band names that we will come across over the course of this series, maybe some minor regrets there when the band actually does get big and has to stick to it.
Right. But and so then you can play these songs with Chords, which they record in like May to July 1997, according to the liner notes. This is one of those kind of similar to Janelle Monáe's The Audition or the Rilo Kiley's The Initial Friend. That's like half demo, kind of sort of demo, kind of sort of quote unquote real album. How do you feel about it in those terms? Do you feel like it stands as an album, or is this really more of a? I don't know, it's not in the album's discography section on their Wikipedia page.
Right. Yeah. I don't. That's a tough thing to say because it does feel, most of these songs feel of a piece. Like it feels like, like you said, this kind of starts off as Ben's playing in Pinwheel. He's writing these other songs that don't really fit with Pinwheel, and that kind of just becomes Death Cab for Cutie, and some of the stuff kind of becomes All Time Quarterback. But like it feels like there's a through line here, and I think a lot of that through line is this kind of like stuff that is inspired by that early mid 90s emo, like your Sunny Day Real Estate, your early Jimmy Eat World, your Jawbreakers in a lot of ways,
with equal doses like Built to Spill and that sort of in the post Nirvana indie rock stuff.
Right, exactly. Yeah. To call it an album, I think at the time it had to have felt like it. It's hard for me to approach this, from like a fresh perspective because I have listened to Something About Airplanes and I've heard 5 out of these 8 songs in that form. The Pitchfork review of this says something along the lines of, if you want to hear this without actually having to listen to it, you can just throw on Something About Airplanes, stuff it under a pillow, and play it at like a slightly slower speed, and you got it. And I'm like, that's not quite true, but I get where you're coming from.
Yeah, that's classic 2002 Pitchfork snark.
Oh yeah, 100%.
I think it really sells short what Chris Walla in particular as a recording engineer and producer is doing on this record. I think that this is the template for him in particular, but also for the band. Or I mean, it's really, it's mostly Ben Gibbard at this point, but like for everyone in this band to really push what they can do sonically with the tools that they have and create these really interesting sonic spaces and like palettes that are recognizably indie rock or emo, but also feel like they're expressing something really clearly that is beyond what a lot of bands at their level were doing at the time, or even would be doing later on. And that's it's
Right.
apparent, even though this is a quote unquote demo.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, I remember recording to like an early like crappy tape machine in my friend's basement, and like that was like at the time that was making an album, and it feels like this is like a even more mature version of that, despite the fact that like I don't actually know the timeline of like how old Ben Gibbard is at this point, but he's still very young.
19 years old.
Yeah, exactly. Like much like I don't want to say much like with the early Conor Oberst stuff, because that's way worse than this. I see like it is wild to think that like a 19-year-old was writing these songs, especially like writing them as a more or less side project from their like main thing, which is a pop punk band. Big air quotes pop punk, just like lumping them in that, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, like this is like this kind of songwriting at that age is something that I couldn't fathom for myself, and therefore can't fathom for anybody else.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Like they're a lot of the bands we've covered on this, it feels like they had something. You could tell even when they were very young that they had something special, and then that just gets refined and built on for decades to come.
Exactly. Yeah.
So we get into the songs, or do you have anything else to say about the general Death Cab history?
No, I don't think I have much else to say about the general history. Just like I had, like I said, I'd never heard this before, and it really was cool to hear the early versions of some songs that I already liked, but hadn't heard like these versions of. And like again, like we'll get into it, but like this shows so much promise at such an early stage in their career. It's absolutely nuts.
Yeah, it's kind of one that you feel like if you did hear this in 1997, it makes sense that they would be a band that would succeed based on this demo.
Exactly, yeah.
But it starts off with President of What, which is this like very cool bass drum groove with these kind of punchy, jangly guitars and this cool synth line. It's this combination of elements is pretty much what this album is going to sound like right from that first verse.
Yeah, this like very reverb laden, heavily affected guitar against these like very like driving drums and bass.
Yeah, with like a groovy moving bass line. It's there's like almost elements of Talking Heads a little bit in some of what they're doing, but a little more smoothed out, not quite as weird and out there until it gets like really noisy in the bridge.
Yeah, for sure. I do really love what the and I know I said that like I have listened to something about airplanes before. It's been a while. I don't remember if the like kind of borderline spooky sounding crappy Casio synth that is on this song is in that version, but I absolutely love it here.
So I don't think I've ever heard something about airplanes. I own it on CD, but I'm not sure I've ever played it.
Dang. Okay.
So I'm hearing this stuff for the first time.
Okay.
I know a lot of Death Cab, but the early stuff I'm not nearly as well versed in as sort of the mid and later career.
Sure. Yeah, that's fair.
But it does also feel like kind of a template for Ben Gibbard as a songwriter too. With this kind of it's a story song. It feels like it's about jealousy and about kind of this like lingering feeling that you're being cheated on or that your relationship is ending. But it's a very internal, it's very, very focused on the sort of inner monologue and the feelings. And this is just, I don't know, that just feels indicative of what he's going to be, even, what he's going to refine and be like great at as a songwriter going forwards.
Yeah, it's the kind of like, you have the like kind of core like emotions of emo music, but like it is this really like introspective thing. Like one of the things I really love in this song is the like, and this is like kind of a wordplay thing, not a wordplay thing, but like a writing technique thing that we've talked about before. In the middle of that first verse, we get the I took a little more of what I take for granted, like kind of immediately place like the blame on yourself, but then later on like reflecting on like what transpires after and like maybe reflecting on what had happened before. Or you get to I took a little more till I got taken for granted. Like again, still going, I am seeing my part in the dissolution of this relationship, but like also like there is something else going on here that is outside of my control.
Right. Yeah. And then just like to have it resolve into this chorus of like, something's got to break you down repeated. It's, he's good with a single line like that really he's able to really make it hit.
Yeah, definitely.
There's this cool spoken interlude in the bridge that is, I assume, a sample from some kind of old like PSA or motivational film or something. They do this a couple times on the record. I wasn't able to find an actual source for this outside of people talking about Sydney Gish using a similar sample in one of her songs.
Yeah, well, like clearly it's something that they just have on hand because it's in that exact sample is played back in the recording of the first show. So like, I have no idea what the source is, and I wasn't able to find anything on it either. But I do really like it. Like it's very thematically, it feels very thematically tied to the song. So like it's not just
Yeah,
I know emo is famous for throwing random shit into their songs like that, but
no, it feels like it feels like a commentary on the idea that the people he's writing about, whether this is his own story or someone else's, like that their hurt, their pain, the source of all that goes back much further than just this relationship that they're in. That it goes all the way back to how they were raised, I guess.
Right. Yeah. Generational trauma. It's real.
Exactly. Yep. Then after that is Champagne in a Paper Cup, where I feel like you can already, like, this is where you can really hear the Sonics experimentation going on. That snare drum is so loud and trashy, but has this really cool reverb. The guitars and vocals are kind of twist around each other in a cool way, and they experiment with kind of this far-off atmospheric sound at times. And I just think this is just a very good song.
It really is. Yeah, and, like, kind of speaking specifically to the production, like this album is very lo-fi, like that's undeniable, but like the feeling that gets across in each of these songs, like these drums are heavy, like they don't like physically like hit your ears as heavy, but they are heavy, they feel heavy, and like that's an accomplishment in this context. Like I can't overstate that.
Yeah, and it kind of goes back to what I said about using the tools at your disposal to make something that is, even if it's not like the quote unquote best produced album in the world, it is the most interesting sounding thing you can make with what you have. And that is what I think every song on this album is, bar maybe like one.
Yeah, exactly.
The contempt in the line, "I think I'm drunk enough to drive you home now," is,
God.
Giver's performance on that is amazing.
Yeah, it's he really sells it even more. Like that line on its own like holds up as like in terms of conveying the feeling that he's trying to convey. But yeah, his delivery on that is so good. So nice he says it twice because the opening and closing of the song are the same, and I think that's really neat. Yeah.
I'll also just say the line, "A sad sorry state stutter step to those slammin' grooves," is a great bit of wordplay.
Really, really incredible. That whole like, I guess, quote unquote verse that is sandwiched between the beginning and the end is just really, really good.
Yeah, this one gets re-recorded also, right? I'm sure we'll talk about all these other versions of these songs next week on the Something About Airplanes episode. So
exactly.
We'll go probably more into the production on those ones, because I assume that they are much more refined than what's going on here.
Yeah, they definitely are.
Next up is Pictures in an Exhibition. This one is the most Beatlesy thing that I've heard, outside of like a Bleachers song, where the drums are just panned like hard left, and there's like what sounds to me like an acoustic guitar played through a distorted amp, like panned hard right, and the vocals kind of do a similar panning later on. This is just a crazy sounding song. It feels like it is mixed specifically to keep you off balance the entire time.
It really is. It starts right at the beginning because the like count in is all in the right ear, and then the drums are suddenly in the left ear.
Yeah.
I specifically do not like that, but I get why they did it because it's kind of neat in all honesty. But it does throw me off real hard right out the gate here. Yeah, I couldn't find a source for this quote, but like on Genius, there's like a quote from Ben about how this like he really still likes the song because it's like a pop song. He specifically goes, it's not like it's There She Goes by the Laws or anything, but it's structurally pretty basic. But like the production makes it not that at all.
Yeah, and I think his performance on this song vocally, it feels very scrappy and unrefined. I think of him. I think of what Death Cab becomes known for, especially in the Plans and Narrow Stairs years, is a bit more of a pure seems like the wrong word, but a pretty clean, pretty like delicate vocal styling and sense of songwriting. I mean, especially something like I Will Follow You Into the Dark, which is probably their biggest hit. And so that's probably biased a little because of that. But I just, to hear the way that he lets loose on this whole record, but especially this song, is so refreshing. And I like it so much just because I love all bands that sound like that, like the 90s emo thing we were talking about. And this is just like a good example of what he's capable of at that point.
It's really cool. Like this song, complimentary feels really loose the entire way through. And I really love when something feels like it's flowing the way it wants to flow instead of like being locked into a groove that's like kind of being imposed upon it, but also like not feeling like there's just chaos,
Yeah, and I'm curious, how much of that is Chris Walla, how much of that is Ben Gibbard? Are they coming to this idea together, or is one of them kind of, or maybe Walla in particular, running with some of these crazy production ideas to get to the place where the song's at? I don't know if I'm sure they've talked about it at some point.
Yeah, almost definitely. Something I did notice when like going through the lyrics of this is that it seems like, and again, I haven't listened to Something About Airplanes in a while, but it seems like the Something About Airplanes version of this song cuts out a lot of the lyrics, because that bit about like polyurethane people with glass hearts is like just not in the lyrics that are available online.
Yeah, it trims down a little bit, I think.
Yeah, I kind of really like that verse, so it's weird to me that they cut it out, but sure.
Yeah, it's one of those songs where like I assume that a lot of the lyrics allude to the Mussorgsky, the classical piece Pictures at an Exhibition, but I don't know that well enough to draw a lot of the connections there.
I don't get that impression at all from what I remember about that piece. I haven't dove into like it as a like whole work, because like the like general idea behind that piece, right?
Yeah, and I've seen it performed multiple times. It's a big oboe piece, so Lisi loves it.
Oh yeah, I love it too. I love Mussorgsky, no matter how much he never finished any of his pieces. But yeah, like I like the imagery that like inspired the piece like isn't really present here. So I'm not sure what the connection is there. I might try to look into that a little more for next week, because I again love that piece and would love to know if there is a direct connection there.
Or maybe it's just a cool phrase for a title.
Also possible.
After that is Hindsight, one of the songs that does not get re-recorded, and I think is probably one of the weaker songs on this album. It's pretty slight in terms of its story, which I guess is just like about a relationship ending on a long drive. Once again, Ben Gibbard's vocals very like pushed back and pretty distorted, and it creates this more just kind of cool atmosphere work from Chris Walla as a producer.
Definitely, yeah. And the vocal melody on this one is just it does get stuck in your craw a little bit. Like it's very catchy. I like the lyrics are minimal and like kind of forgettable, but like the chorus like vocal melody specifically I really like. But yeah, it's one of the less strong songs on the record for sure.
Yeah, some cool guitar work near the end of it. There's kind of like high feedbacky type guitar going on.
Yeah, definitely. I guess that they did this song on the iTunes original session that they did, and I'm very interested to hear what that sounds like, because I did not get a chance to check that out.
Yeah, I haven't either. I guess I figured I would get to that as closer to where it is when it was released. What is that? The Plans era?
2005. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Plans era.
That was one of the things where when I was texting Blake about Death Cab in general, he was like, "You need to listen to this. This is very important to my lore."
Okay.
So I will be checking that out sooner rather than later, which we'll get to it anyway. But
yes, we will. But now we'll get to That's Incentive, which, like, where did this song come from? This is like
Great question.
This is like a post-hardcore song. It's
A little bit.
but it's still got like that Death Cab like walking bass thing. This song totally knocked me out. I really like this one.
This is like, yeah, like if we're keeping on like the emo tip, like this is like early emo, like born out of hardcore type stuff. Which I absolutely love. I put my note is this is classic emo in the copy pasta sense. For those who know, you know. If you don't, good. Continue not knowing. Yeah, no, this song rules. The bass line goes so hard. And yeah, it's like nothing else on this record at all.
Yeah, I wonder if there's like an alternate history where they become a band that's more like this. I mean, I feel like the Seattle scene had a lot of great, post-hardcore and metalcore stuff going on. I mean, I think Botch is like right around this time too, and I kind of wonder how interconnected those scenes were. If those guys all knew each other, they were going to the same shows, or if that kind of thing might have inspired the direction they're going on this song.
It wouldn't surprise me in the slightest if they were running in the same circles.
Yeah. This one feels like he's sort of trying to write more about jealousy, but through the lens of like body image, I guess, is probably the best way I can put it.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm getting out of it. Yeah, like we start off talking about being in between the pages of fashion magazines, lots of scar imagery in the song. Mm-hmm. Just, yeah, very, very much body image based.
He talks about being embarrassed by lyrics that he wrote when he was this age, and I do think I live this life just to bear these scars might be the one he's thinking of most.
I wouldn't be surprised if that is front of mind when he says things like that.
Yeah. So, like, I get why they didn't go further with this stuff, but it's cool that it's out there and it's on this record.
Yeah, for sure.
Then Amputations brings us back to something more akin to that kind of slowcore emo thing that Death Cab is more known for. Great like harmonic guitar lead in the chorus. I love when a guitarist uses that style. And generally a pretty cool song production wise.
Yeah, this one, like, if you didn't already feel like you were hearing some Sunny Day Real Estate influence, then you definitely are here. Like, this is like Sunny Day Real Estate core in its sonics for sure.
Yeah, and it just has that like that pining, yearning, unrequited love angle that is so the territory of this type of emo music.
Well, yeah, I mean, it opens up with it. If it was just how you wanted, you'd be glued to his bones and his brainstem. Like, it doesn't get more of that particular lineage of lyric writing than that.
Right, and then it goes on to be a song about how he thinks that this person that he's in love with is in love with someone else and changing who they are for that person, and it's like the idea that you're amputating your personality to then, and you just end up. What does he say at some point? Yeah, he's unresponsive because you're irresponsible because it's actually not working. Yeah,
like, you're doing all of this stuff for another person who doesn't care about you and is going to continue not caring about you after you have changed all these things about yourself.
Right, which I assume is sort of the thematic connection to this Glenn W. Turner sample that plays throughout it, which is, he's a guy who was imprisoned for running a pyramid scheme in an MLM, basically.
Right, yeah.
Which feels like out of place, but I can see the connection there.
Definitely, yeah. The words being said feel like they connect to the song. Maybe not the person himself, though.
Right. Man, there's a couple, the Something About Airplanes version uses a different clip from this speech, right?
I think it's like an extended version of it because there's less of the sample in this particular recording.
Yeah, so we can talk more about that on next week's one too.
Totally, yeah. The one thing I want to point out is that I love that little toy keyboard that plays in the bridge.
It rules! It's so good.
So cool.
That is a great sound.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I know there's a name for that, and it's probably made by Little Tykes, but it's like a Celesta, but for kids.
Yeah, I want one. I have children. I have an excuse to get one.
There you go. Yeah.
After that is Two Cars. Another one that feels sonically pretty similar to President of What, the way the guitars and the keyboard kind of work together in those verses. Another one that is playing with this repetition idea and sort of using these lines that repeat to express this idea that is in the lyric, this as depression and time breed and multiply till I've got more mouths than I could ever feed, or whatever it is.
Yeah. The last two lines of each verse, which like that. I mean, that's an interesting invert. I feel like usually when you are repeating something in a verse, it's at the top. I like that it's at the bottom of the verses here.
Yeah, I mean, it functions as a pre-chorus of sorts.
More or less, yeah. Because, yeah, the chorus does stay the same each time, and it leads right into it every time.
Yeah, yet another one that didn't carry over to the something about airplanes era. I can see considering this one of the lesser songs on the record, but I think it's still, I think it's still pretty good.
It works in context. It's not something that I think I'm going to return to, nor do I think that it needed to be revamped for anything later on.
Yeah. The line of Best Fit, however, is what a song this is.
Oh my God, yeah.
This is the one that was most like, they must have had Static Prevails and The Power of Failing on repeat while writing this. It's such a 90s emo guitar part, the crunchy but melodic guitars, the way Ben is singing this, fairly minimal set of lyrics. I really, really love this song, from the reversed guitar intro and outro to everything else about it.
It's so fucking cool. The single line in the chorus hook, whatever you want to call it, can't escape this line of Best Fit. Like that is such good lyric writing. Like that single set of words says so much without having to say much at all, which is a thing that we talked about a lot with Mitski. But I think it's like exemplified here in that particular line. Also, I remember being inside something more than you is also a very Mitski line.
Yeah.
Obviously far, far before she was making music, but she's on the brain given that we just came off that series.
Yeah. What do you make of that, the chorus line? Just, do you think it's more of about, I feel like there's like about a relationship that's on it feels like it's on a track and you can't get out of it, or it's about like feeling like your life has been laid out for you in a way that your choices don't actually mean anything?
I kind of read it as a like, so like thinking about the concept of the line of Best Fit, it's like the median line between a bunch of high and low points, right? Like,
yeah,
it feels like it might be thematically tied to like amputations in a way, because like in an attempt to like it feels like what it's talking about here is like attempting to avoid the like lows of a relationship has led to this kind of like leveling out that is not satisfying for either person, which like kind of culminates in that I remember being inside something more than you, like this kind of yearning for something outside of the physicality of the relationship, which is where we've just kind of ended up here. That's kind of where I land, is that like you're shaving off the like sharp edges of the relationship, but at the expense of the relationship itself.
Yeah, I like that reading of it. I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, where did you land on that?
Somewhere in there. I didn't really land anywhere.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
I just really like this song more from a performance and a production perspective than feeling like I know anything about what it's about.
That's totally fair.
Yeah.
The way that the reversed guitar outro consumes like the fade out at the end of like the song proper is so cool for like this early of a version of a song.
Yeah, that's something that is. I do feel like the intro and outro of this song feel kind of disconnected from the rest of the song, and that's something that they will get better at as they get older.
Yeah,
but like the part is so cool that I kind of don't mind.
Yeah, no, I think it works. Like it could be better, but I think given the tools that they had at their disposal at the time, like this is maybe the best version they could have done of it, and I think it shows.
Yeah, I agree. So that's
yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I also really love the doubled vocals on this from Abigail Hall. They're very cool. It's a good effect.
Stuff. So those 8 songs are the original cassette release of You Can Play These Songs with Chords. The album was reissued, like I mentioned, like 5 years later by Barsuk with a bunch of bonus tracks, some of which we'll talk about on future episodes because they are from the Songs About Airplanes and We Have the Facts era. But the first 5 of these bonus tracks are all You Can Play These Songs with Chords recordings, starting with a really, really ill-advised cover of This Charming Man by the Smiths.
Yeah, that's a choice.
Ben is doing a Morrissey accent, and it does not work.
Yeah, it's like, it's so weird to have him be in between his own voice and a Morrissey affect that, like, it almost... At moments, it sounds like he's not trying to do a Morrissey, and then it's like, oh no, never mind. This isn't what Ben Gibbard sounds like at all.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the Smiths they wrote some great songs. And Morrissey doesn't represent in 1997 everything that he represents now. But right. I just think this is not a good cover.
It's a really weird choice of song for the band at this time too. Like, it's one of the jangliest Smith's songs, and that's like not where this band is at.
But also the band isn't the band at this point. This is
true.
This is all before they even settle on the name Death Cab for Cutie, I think, or at least a couple of these are. Or they're mostly just like Ben and Chris messing around and trying to record some songs, and so I don't like hold this against the band by any means. It is just pretty funny to listen to now.
Totally fair.
Yeah. So then after that there's TV Trays and New Candles, which are recorded in November of 1996, which is just, again, these are just Ben and Chris working together on these. These songs, I think, are both really cool. They're very like punk or like kind of heavier 90s indie rock influence. They feel like a alternate direction that Death Cab could have gone, much more along the lines of That's Incentive, which actually makes the record.
Yeah, these songs in particular, like I go, oh yeah, this sounds like Dear You era Jawbreaker.
That's like a good comp.
Maybe the Replacements at certain points in their career. New Candles specifically sounds kind of like a Replacements song.
Yeah, Built to Spill is the thing I was thinking of, but like,
oh, for sure, yeah.
Yeah, it's all in that milieu. But the thing that I think is cool about these is like you can hear the kind of grooves that Death Cab will use later on, even if Ben is way brattier and way more aggressive than he will ever be on a Death Cab recording.
Right, yeah, exactly.
So it's the DNA is there.
The DNA is definitely there. And having everybody kind of on their primary instruments rather than Ben kind of trying to do everything, like the tightening up is very apparent even in these like early recordings from what is the early version of the full band.
Right. And Tomorrow is the next of these demos is you can kind of hear more of that. This is where Nick Harmer, who becomes the full-time bassist in the band, joins. This one Nick describes it in the liner notes as our attempt to construct a European dance hit. I don't know much about European dance music at the time. I don't really think it sounded like this.
No, it sounded to me, without that context, like they were trying to make a Cure song, kind of.
Yeah, okay, I can see that. I mean, it's a drum machine pretty clearly, but this like sparser arrangement than typical Death Cab, even the early demos. It's not a bad song. I don't mind it.
No, definitely not. Just another different direction that they ultimately didn't really do much in, but it's a cool experiment.
Yeah. A less cool experiment, I think, is Flustered / Hey Tomcat. This is just an experiment in sound collage and beats and loops, apparently trying to capture the sound of being on LSD. I don't think I ever need to hear the song again.
Yeah, I think that's valid. It's I wrote, is this a Beck song? But like in a bad way. Yeah, I don't know. I guess the song is I'm all for experimentation. I love sound collage shit. This is a well-established fact on this podcast. This doesn't work. This doesn't work at all. I don't understand why they did this.
I'm going to give a big ol' shout out to Genius user Hello There Tom for typing out every single goddamn lyric of this stupid song.
What a guy, man. I wish I had the patience to do that. Not specifically for this song, but for something more constructive.
I mean, I don't want to be too down on the last song we're going to talk about on this episode, but yeah, not for me.
No, it's not for me either. And normally I would be all about this kind of thing, but it just doesn't work. It's real unfortunate.
Maybe I should be more impressed. Chris Wallace says there are no digital sounds in it.
That's
but
cool.
I mean, it's cool, but like he's gonna use those powers for good very soon, and so I don't really need to worry about this one anymore.
Right, exactly. Maybe it was a necessary step to getting someplace else, and that's fine.
Yeah. So like I said, the rest of this, if you're looking at a CD copy of You Can Play These Songs with Chords, the rest of the songs on here we'll talk about in future episodes because they're all compiled from later recording sessions from the next couple records. So that I think that's kind of it for the You Can Play These Songs with Chords era. How much of the first acoustic show did you listen to?
I listened to pretty much the whole thing. And it was cool. Like I guess it sounds like basically that was like thrown together as like a more or less pseudo release show. Like they wanted to play some shows in the area to celebrate the record, and just got a bunch of friends in a basement and played a show, and it sounded pretty good, especially for a basement show recording on like a single like microphone source.
Yeah, I just listened to a little bit of it, but I mean, I agree. It's cool to hear. It's cool that it's documented, one, and
right.
Just always cool to hear where a band like this got started. I mean, that's kind of how I feel about the record as a whole. That I think it clearly shows a ton of potential. I love a handful of the songs. I like most of it, and it just, especially in retrospect, knowing what they would go on to make, it's very exciting to think about everything that's ahead for them from 1998 onwards.
Yeah, definitely.
Any final thoughts on the album?
No, like like I said, it's cool to like actually get to sit down with this and like see where the band really started, because like I knew a basic version of the history going in, but just had never gotten around to sitting down with this one. So it was cool to finally see early versions of songs that I already knew and liked, and like getting a little deeper on the inception of the band as it was.
Oh, I'm going to throw in one more thing that we didn't talk about.
Oh, yeah.
The album artwork.
Yes.
So a lot of this early Death Cab stuff has very cool CD packaging. I assume the vinyl is similar, but I don't have any of these early records on vinyl. But the CD is cool because if you just look at the artwork, it looks like this sort of sepia-toned vintage photo of Bellingham, Washington, where the band formed. But the CD, or like the booklet, the liner notes, is actually like a 2-piece thing. So when you pull the booklet out, the photo is more, it looks like a negative, like you can see through it, and so the booklet is just like a white background underneath this CD that's like affixed to the or this like whatever plate see-through thing, that's translucent thing that's affixed to the inside of the CD case. It's a very cool bit of packaging. That's like die cut and everything. I like it a lot.
That's really cool. I don't have a physical copy of this, so I had no idea. That rules.
Yeah, I'll try to take a picture of it, or maybe I'll take a video that shows it coming out that explains that better than I can with words.
I feel like I understand what's going on here based on that.
Yeah. Okay, that was the only other thing I wanted to say, was to just touch on the album artwork a little bit. The cassette, I think those were all just hand drawn. If you have one, I assume they're worth $1 gazillion, because I certainly don't have one.
They have to be worth $1 gazillion, yes.
I don't know. Has one ever sold on Discogs? Should we look real quick?
Let's take a quick look.
I should have looked at this earlier.
Yeah, it's fine.
Because there were 150 copies of the original release, from what I remember reading.
Something along those lines. All right, let's see.
Cassette album last sold. Okay, one sold for $200 was the highest.
That's shocking to me. When was it? It was last sold last year.
Okay, maybe there's more of these than I think they are. I don't know. I'm used to Mountain Goat's cassette
Right.
release prices, and so maybe nothing can shock me anymore.
I mean, I do see a copy of the Hound Chronicles show up on my want list every once in a while, and it's usually around $200. So maybe that's just what early lo-fi cassettes from bands
Yeah.
like this cost.
Yeah. Either way, the CD is very much worth seeking out, I think, if you're into this band, if you're into this album, if you're into cool early 2000s CD physical media.
Definitely worth doing.
All right, let's do some random recommendations. What do you got for this week?
This week I'm going to recommend a movie. It is called Liz and the Bluebird. I saw it at the Music Box a week or two ago as part of Saffapalooza. I feel like every year I'm going to go to at least one Saffapalooza movie and then bring it here. But this is a spin-off movie from an anime / manga called Sound Euphonium, which like I know nothing about. But basically, this was directed by Naoko Yamada and written by Riko Yoshida. It's the story of two girls who are in high school, it seems like, who are in band together, and it just kind of chronicles their relationship and the ways in which they feel about each other and don't feel about each other. And it was, like I said, it was part of Saffapalooza, so heavy sapphic vibes from this movie. The director claims that it is not intended to be that at all. But I guess in Japan, that is generally, this is based on a like pre-show like speech that was given, so I have no source for this. But what I was told was that generally in Japanese media, girls liking other girls is treated as a phase thing that you just grow out of eventually, and like that's often reflected in anime. Like two girls will like seem to, you know, have romantic feelings for each other, and then a boy comes along and that all changes. That does not happen in this movie, and I cannot read it in any other way that this is a movie about a girl who has a crush on another girl, and it is unrequited, and it's very, very heartbreaking in a lot of ways. But incredible original score for this movie, beautifully animated. It's got these storybook like subplot moments happening that are animated in a different style. It's a really wonderful movie to watch if you're into animation at all. That is Liz and the Bluebird.
Okay, very cool.
Yeah. What you got?
Let's see. Should I do a music or a book?
Ooh, I would love to hear about a book.
Okay. So this actually connects to music anyway. The band Spanish Love Songs that I love is doing a monthly book club on their Discord. And the first book that Dylan, singer of the band, selected was this book called How High We Go in the Dark by Sequoia Nagamatsu. And this book is just not at all what I thought it was going to be. It is a book that is ostensibly about a plague that this apparently was written pre-COVID, but I don't understand how. But it's a book about a plague that, you know, swipes across the world and sweeps across the world, and it's about the effects of this plague on society. It is about the way that it brings people together and tears people apart, and it is about, I mean, the disease itself is kind of has these surreal effects that it touches on, but this book like sneakily becomes a science fiction story, which is, it's an anthology novel. It's told like, you know, it's basically a collection of short stories about loosely connected or sometimes very tightly connected people, but it sneakily becomes like a futuristic sci-fi novel in a way that I find so satisfying. I love when something like that, when an author is able to pull off something like that. And I just found this book so profoundly moving, and it has so much to say about what we can mean to each other and what we can do for each other and for the planet. And if you're into any of the things that I said at all, like, don't be turned off by the fact that has a lot of COVID parallels. I will say that the second chapter in it is the saddest thing I've ever read in my life. So, you know, there's that. Like, this book made me cry multiple times, but also gave me a lot of hope. And I think it's just very much worthwhile for anyone to read.
I added it to my to-read list while you were talking about it, so I am sold.
Awesome. Yeah, it's a good one.
Amazing.
All right, we will be back next week talking about something about airplanes, the, I guess, proper Death Cab debut album. In the meantime, you can follow us on Instagram at noisefloorpod, find us elsewhere on the internet at noisefloorpodcast.com, and send us email at noisefloorpodcast@gmail.com. And we will talk to you next week.
Talk to you next week.